Hello, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, checking. I also got my eyes on the Final Four last time I checked. Purdue leads North NC State 55 to 42. Welcome. This is the Pre-ECLIPSE Kickoff, and coming up on the solar eclipse on Monday, the big solar eclipse. We're going to get ready for that, but before we got to take matters into our own hands, meaning there's something else more important going on before the solar eclipse. Last time I checked the TV, and let me just check it again. Yes, Purdue currently has a 20-point lead over NC State, and it's amazing the run that NC State had over the course of this tournament, because what we had here was a team that really made a run ever since they beat Syracuse. Ever since they beat Syracuse in the ACC tournament, NC State went on a big run, and they won every single consecutive game. But it looks like barring a miracle comeback, with less than 2 minutes left to go into the game, NC State's miraculous run and is going to come to an end, and Purdue most likely is going to win this game and move on to the national championship, which I was surprised, but I really wasn't surprised, because Purdue also seems to be the better team. They're clearly the better team in this game, and they've beaten all of their opponents, and it's quite interesting how we have. But I think both teams are a little bit evenly matched. I really wanted NC State to pull off the win and be the first 11 seed to make it to the national championship. They're trying to make a comeback now. It's 63-47, but still, we have about a minute left to go in the game, and Purdue's up by such a big margin. So it'll be interesting. It'll also be interesting to watch the game that follows this one. We have UConn and Alabama playing against each other in the later game of the Final Four. So that'll be quite interesting. What are your take on this? I know, Alex, you wanted NC State. So did I, because again they had a wonderful run. The Iowa-UConn game last night, the second highest most watched game. Well, that's very interesting. The second highest most watched game in ESPN. Oh yes, I watched that also with Caitlin Clark and the women's Final Four. I watched that from my hotel room in Bath, New York, as I was finishing up my job there. I had a job in Almond, where I was replacing the cash drawer, and in my hotel room I took a look at that game. So it looks like less than a minute to go, 30 seconds left to go, and they're 50-63 now. NC State's now 50-63. Purdue looks like they're going to advance to the national championship. And the final seconds go out. The clock is currently stopped at 11.3 seconds. I don't think NC State, unfortunately, even though they've played really well, but I don't think they have it in them. Oh, they just put 12.1 seconds left on the clock. I don't think they have it in them to make a miraculous comeback. That would have been great. This whole thing reminds me of when Syracuse was in the Final Four. And that's it. Purdue's going to advance to the national championship on Monday with a final score of 63-50. The buzzer sounded. It's official. What a run for Purdue, but also what a run for NC State. That is just unbelievable. To win that many games, starting from back in the ACC tournament when they beat Syracuse. And this brings me back to Syracuse's both men's and women's run in the Final Four back in 2016. I was expecting at least the men's team to win their game, but again, they were playing the University of North Carolina. I was expecting both the men's and the women's team. I was expecting the men to beat UNC, and I was expecting the women's team to beat their opponent. The women actually went on and played UConn for the national championship, but then Breanna Stewart and company blew them out, and unfortunately, they weren't able to get the job done. And so I was hoping that we would have, for the first time in history, we would have two national championships in one season, but unfortunately, that was not the case. And unfortunately, the men's team went home and lost to UNC, but the women went on. So, and the SU women's team was so close this year to having, or at least having a run in the NCAA tournament. And we're losing one of the greatest players in our program's history, Deasia Fair, who is, I believe, is going to go into the WNBA, as well as a player on LSU who used to play for Syracuse, Camila Cardoso. So that was, so that would be great for them. And we'll have to see how Iowa plays tomorrow night. That'll be very, very interesting. Once we get to Syracuse playing or not playing, the fact that once we realize the fact that Syracuse men's or women's basketball is no longer playing in the tournament, I've stopped caring, except for watching games that have either an ACC connection or have some sort of local ties to Syracuse, Central New York, or at least teams that have gotten a lot of national attention, like NC State. And yes, what was the highest, most watched? I believe actually that would be the game before then, where Iowa beat LSU. Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was the highest, most watched, but I think it may go back farther than that. I'm interested to look it up. Most watched game in ESPN history. Oh, I have it right here. According to Google, Game 7 of the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics was ESPN's most watched basketball game with 13.51 million viewers. Non-football broadcast. That makes sense. That does make sense. So, to wrap up, Purdue's going to move on, and now we wait for the UConn game. That's going to be something interesting to watch, and I'll, as we continue the show, if it starts during the show, I'll continue to update you with the scores and any updates. The peak 17 million people were watching. Yeah, it's quite interesting how women's college basketball is getting as much, if not even more attention than men's college basketball, especially with stars like Caitlin Clark and Camila Cardoso, Brianna Stewart, who I know has played in the WNBA. Angel, there's a number of them. It's about time, Q Lizzo, it's about damn time that the women's college basketball games are getting as much attention as the men's basketball games, because they're just as important. I know back in the 2000s, or at least back when I was a student at Syracuse University, that was 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, the men's, Syracuse men's basketball was at least what the majority of us as fans cared about, and women's college basketball kind of took a back seat. 14.2 million viewers on ESPN. Most viewed women's basketball game. Yes, very good, Alex. I mean, that number just goes to show that nowadays it's completely different, and now I feel like both teams are on equal plays. Speaking of women that are killing it, here is a woman who's killing it in the music scene, particularly the R&B and hip hop genre. It's SZA with a song named after the planet Saturn. And that's we're getting the debut. And actually, this is the world debut, the Forever Living debut on this station. First time we're playing the song on the show. Coming up next, we'll keep an update on the scores, and we'll talk some more. Yes, we'll talk some more. And so please stay tuned. You're listening to the Pre-ECLIPSE Kickoff. More about the eclipse coming up on Forever Living Radio. Yes. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And speaking of seasons, the seasons technically are not going to change on Monday, but it might feel like it will because it is time for the moment that we've all been waiting for. I know this is a big event that has been promoted. It has been anticipated for months now. Of course, we're talking about the total solar eclipse, and I just want to show you a map quickly. This this is a map of the where it's going to pass over New York State and the Northeast. So if you can take a look, these lines here, this big line is going to it's going to show where the eclipse is going to pass over various parts of the country and the North American continent. As you can see, it starts down the south is Texas, and it's going to go all the way up through the upper East Coast, all the way up to the Northeast. Now, if you take a look at where these lines here, so the green line, according to what the map says, if I could you want to be closer to the green line because that's where the most amount of time that you'll be able to witness the eclipse now, or at least the path of totality. This is actually the path of totality. If you're in the shaded region, you're actually in the path of totality. But if you're closer to the green line, then you get to witness the eclipse for the longest amount of time. So that follows what we've been talking about. If you follow the group text chat, so here in Baldwinsville, we're off the path of totality, or we're farther away from the green line than, let's say, over here in Brockport. So, Rachel, you were right. That confirms that the closer to the SUNY Brockport campus, or at least I want to say the Wegmans in Brockport, which is pretty much close to the Brockport campus. That's going to be, and I'm trying to find the campus. Oh, here's the SUNY Brockport campus, so that's not far off. So we're better off. We're better off having the more time on the Brockport campus, seeing the most of the total eclipse, as opposed to staying in Baldwinsville or Syracuse. The closest, according to this map, the closest to central New York, where you're going to be close to the red line, or I mean the green line, is up near Henderson, that's up near Watertown, and that's just about southwest of Watertown and Adams Center. So, but I would imagine if you're in this line, if you're in this shaded line, you're in the path of totality, and you'd be able to pretty much see you'd be able to see some part of the eclipse. And just going to go into another site here, and trying to get some more information about the path of totality. So just trying to look here what those actual lines mean. This is the Rochester newspaper, the Democrat and Chronicle, and Okay. Taking a look at the lines here. But the closer you are to, essentially, the closer you are to the path of totality, the closer you are to that green line, that means the more time, the more viewing time that you'll have. So that's essentially the bottom line. It's going to be. It sounds like it's going to be. It's going to be a big event. We're going to have people coming all the way from out of town, all over the country, descending on certain areas, certain towns where the eclipse is going to hit. This is going to be amazing. Essentially, where the moon comes into the sun. The moon moves in front of the sun and blocks his face completely, causing the bright sky to darken to twilight in just seconds. So it'll be a spectacle to see. We'll be going to Rochester, as far as I know. Yes, our plan is to all converge in Rochester and witness it together as a family. So this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. The next time that such an event will occur is the next one will be 20 years from now. So I gotta take advantage of the opportunity while we can, and I just try to keep an eye on the game. The UConn Alabama game has not started yet, so I'll keep an update on the score. In the meantime, it's time to get back to the music. We got the Forever Living Classic Hit bumper. We got a Forever Living Classic Hit coming up, and coincidentally enough, it's Waiting for Tonight by Jennifer Lopez. If you look at the music video, that was actually referencing another worldwide phenomenon that was happening in the late 90s, going into 1999 to 2000, the Y2K scare. Do you remember that? Do you remember what it felt like to prepare for almost the end of the world, and then everything went on as normal? Coming up next, we'll have the Bumper to Dump It, as well as other things. And keep an eye on the game. If you want to be part of the conversation, please leave a message in the chat, and please enjoy this Forever Living Classic Hit. And we'll be back. Folks. And unlike what the last past me said, we're not going back to the music. We're going to actually come back and introduce our brand new listener of the evening, Jen Matat, one of the WBXL alumni. If you don't know what WBXL is or where it came from, it's a rich history. Some people might know it as the high school radio station that I was on back in the early to mid 2000s, from 2004 to 2007. It was the high school radio station up at Baker High School in Baldwinsville, New York, and it's been on the air since 1975, which means its 50th anniversary is coming up next year. And I decided, because what better way to, thank you, what better way to celebrate the station's 50th anniversary than share the stories of the alumni, the students who made it happen. And on that, I was actually inspired by WJPZ alumnus John Jack Gay, the other station I was on, Z89, who did the same thing with their alumni. So I'm very thankful for you to come on, and we're going to do Jen's episode, cross fingers, tomorrow at 8 p.m. It's been rescheduled several times, and unfortunately, we've been able to we're trying to adjust our schedules and make it work. So, welcome, Jen. You've missed a lot, or at least, based on what we've discussed so far, you've missed. Here to just recap what you missed. We talked about the Final Four, the Final Four basketball games that are playing tonight. In the first game, Purdue beat NC State, and they're going to the national championship game. And then we have the UConn. And then we have the UConn-Alabama coming up. So that game is yet to start. And so I'll keep an eye out once the game does kick off, does tip off, if the game actually goes on before the show. I'm rooting for Utah, and welcome Paul D. Paul D. I don't know exactly who Paul D. is. Welcome. Just in time. We're about to play one of my favorite games. Oh, and then, of course, we talked about the solar eclipse. This is going to be once in a lifetime phenomenon. And what are you planning to do for the solar eclipse? Okay. Oh, right. Of course. Yes. Welcome, Meg's husband, Paul. We're planning to go to Rochester. My sister Rachel lives out in Rochester. And that's where the path of totality is going to be close enough to get the most amount of exposure. So that's what our plans are for the solar eclipse. What are all your plans to watch the solar? Going to Oswego? Oh, yes, that's going to be very close, up on Lake Ontario region, because I know that once you get close to Lake Ontario, that you'll be able to see the eclipse for the most amount of time. Finally, we're going to go to one of my favorite segments of the show. This is, for those of you who are new to the show, we do a segment called Bump It or Dump It, or Bumper or Dumper, to apply more of a car theme. Essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to play three songs that probably you've never heard of on the station. They're completely brand new, and I've discovered from other sources. I've heard them on other radio stations, or at least I've heard them when I'm out and about, or a friend or family member has brought them to my attention. And what we're going to do here is, as the next three songs play, you're going to vote on whether or not you like them. So if you think it's a hit and you're loving the new track, then you can vote Bump It. If you say that, nah, this song is not for you, it's not that great, then you vote for Dump It. And the song that gets the most amount of Bump It votes wins the game, and will be the final song that we play out to end the show. And I'm really... Oh, yes. The Baldwinsville radio station survived 2006 because the radio station is a public service station. Yep, I did interview individuals from it was more than non-for-profit organizations. It was members of the Baldwinsville community I remember I interviewed actually one of the people I interviewed was the mayor at the time, Joe Saraceni, and then we also had I think we also had Norma Goodman for my very first show that I did back in the fall of 2004, and we had others, but yes, I got two public service awards. Oh yes, Liverpool High School. I didn't know that you teach at Liverpool High School. That's very good. It's better that you have off so that everybody has the opportunity to see the eclipse. Yes, I actually got public service awards, two community service broadcasting awards, and the station was able to keep its FCC license. Back to the bumper to dump it. We're gonna play the first song. This is quite appropriate for the solar eclipse. It's called End of Beginning, and it's by an up and coming artist named Joe. That's DJO. And as you listen, vote bump or dump, and the song with the most bump it votes will win. So good luck, and without further ado, here is End of Beginning by Joe. Well, it was a close race between the first two. No, actually, no, I'm sorry. It was a close race between the first one and the third. Before we get into the final votes, I do want to report that UConn versus Alabama has tipped off the current score. As I see it, UConn currently has a 2-point lead over Alabama, 10-8, and we'll see how this one goes. I mean, my prediction is UConn will find a way to pull out a win in this one, and we'll play Purdue in the national championship Monday. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll report back next week. I can't believe, this is what I can't believe. I can't believe March Madness has gone by so quickly. And I say this every year. The round of 64 begins, first or second weekend, Sunday in March? Third weekend in March. And then the teams get eliminated very quickly, and we play the Final Four in 2 weeks. That is very, very quick. And basketball, the sport of basketball, is a fast-paced game, and it's usually like March 22nd. Thanks y'all for that. And then we just play. Oh yes, and then we just play. We play 2 weeks of exciting basketball, and then we're in 2 weeks. 60 teams are eliminated. Yep, it's been a great tournament. And then in 2 weeks, 64 teams are eliminated, and we're down to the Final Four. And anything can happen. Once the tournament mode is on, once the tournament starts, anything can happen. Great teams or teams that we've never even heard of have ups. They pull off upsets. It's been great, going all the way back to the beginning of this tournament, where we have teams like Duquesne University, who actually beat St. Bonaventure, and the team from Michigan. That team from Michigan, Grambling State. They come to the tournament and they make it. The game last night. Yes, I watched the game last night and it was amazing. I mean, Iowa beating UConn, who's currently. I'm also hoping Iowa can keep it close, and with Caitlin Clark on the team, they're going to pull it out. They have all the talent. What I'm hoping is Caitlin Clark doesn't depend on herself. She has her teammates carry the team, and they play together as a team. I would agree with that, Alex. It's not necessarily exactly what one player does. It's more about what the whole team does. And if one player on the team doesn't really contribute or doesn't really play as much, then the whole team throws off of the balance. So that game is tomorrow night, and I'm very excited to see. I'm more excited than the women's game tomorrow night than I am with the men's national. Not to say that I'm not going to watch the men's tournament, but Jen and Paul, you missed this at the beginning of the show, where I was discussing how the support for the women's team has really increased over the years. Fans, especially over the last 10 years, fans of women's college basketball are really starting to show. And I feel like they've increased over the last 10 years. When I was a student at Syracuse University, this was back 10, 11, 12 years ago, it felt like the Syracuse men's team was getting all the national attention, or at least getting the most attention than the women's team. And we we actually had the women's basketball team playing on my station that I did at SUZ89 WJPZ, and I felt as though not only because of the listenership, but the fans who were in actual attendance at the games, they were few and far between. I think there were maybe a few hundred or so. Now this year, my friend Matt and I have been to a couple of women's basketball games. The attendance has sure grown into the thousands, and support for the women's team is right up there, just as the national team. I think cue Lizzo, it's about damn time that we have equal attention from fans, equal support from fans to support women's athletic, not just basketball, all women's sports, whether it be lacrosse, field hockey, even some of the Olympic sports like swimming, volleyball, or whatever. And because we have a variety of sports to watch here. I mean, just think about we have the Olympics coming up in the summer, and there are a lot. There are a lot of not just the main revenue sports, but there are a lot of sports that both men and women participate in, and it feels like, in my opinion, some of the sports that the women participate in aren't getting as much support from the fans. They're not getting as much attention from the fans as they deserve. I know, like, for example, in the gymnastics or in the Winter Olympics, we have the skiing, the snowboarding and everything like that. This is a world, especially where gender discrimination is taken seriously, and it's different than it was 10 to 20 years ago. So, just to say that hopefully we'll have as much eyeballs on the women's national championship game tomorrow than we did last night, which Alex said was the second most viewed, the most watched game in ESPN history. And going back to the men's game quickly, it's a 13-14 game now. UConn currently holds a 1-point lead over Alabama with 13:41 to go, and the free throw goes in. It's now only a 2-point game, so this will be very, very interesting. Yes, you wish networks would advertise the games better. Definitely. I mean, yes, the network that is on, it's very important. I mean, ESPN is a big brand, but CBS, TBS, those are the major networks that have more brand recognition, and yes, the time. But again, there's only so much room for so many sports. We can't put both the men's and the women's NCAA tournament on the same network, or need to come back to CBS. Yes, the Final Four, I remember the Final Four used to be on CBS. Now they're putting it on TBS. I'm curious what went into the change. I mean, CBS, that's a major network. Not to say TBS isn't a major network, but CBS has more brand recognition and more eyeballs on that network than TBS, and you'd get more you'd get more viewers on the major, yes, money. So it's interesting what you're saying about that, Paul. Are you saying that putting it on TBS means more money for that network, or are you saying that putting the Final Four back on CBS means more money, more revenue for the NCAA tournament, the NCAA in general, and the network? Would putting the Final Four back on CBS benefit the NCAA in general? CBS would obviously get more money if the Final Four were back on CBS. I would agree with that. I think that's where you're going, but I think that's where you're going, Paul. I just don't exactly know what you're trying to get at. And as we continue to watch this game, NC State has... Yes, more viewers. Breaking news. Alabama has just taken the lead. It is now 18-15 Alabama. Alabama has taken the lead. Who would have expected that to happen? Wow. Today we went to see the Lipizan Salmon. The Lipizan Stallions. What team is that? The Lipizan Stallion. Oh, that's actual horses. Okay. The Lipizan. Oh, okay. Actual horses. I wonder what they're like. I'm seeing pictures of them now. I'm sure they're fantastic horses to watch, and they do a lot of tricks. Okay. If they're pulling away, Alabama now has a 4-point lead on UConn. This will be a very interesting game. This will be a very interesting game to watch. Rescued in Austria World War II. They have their home in Mallorca. Okay. Yep, so I haven't seen those. I didn't even know they were in Florida. So thank you for sharing that, Janet. It's time to wrap up the show, and we're going to reveal the Bump It or Dump It winner. As I said, it was a very close race between Benson Boone, Slow It Down, and Megan Paul. If you're listening, our friend Matt actually suggested this song to me, so thanks, Matt, for this show. And DJO, or Joe, End of Beginning. But unfortunately, one song got more dumps than the other, so we got, and this is more appropriate given the nature of the eclipse on Monday. Congratulations to Joe, and End of Beginning. It is the end of the beginning, some might say, when the eclipse comes in. So that's your winner for tonight, and I want to thank everybody for listening to the show, and I hope this isn't the last time, especially the new listeners that we have. Paul and Jen, thank you very much for tuning in to this great radio station for the first time, and I hope this is not your last. And please, if you know any friends, family, or co-workers who are interested in this station, please, oh yes, protect your eyes. That's a good advice. Please, share the station. There's a share. You can share the link right down at the bottom left-hand side, and it's always great to have more listeners to the station. Without further ado, we'll give you the commercial's still on with the Final Four. This for an encore presentation is Joe, End of Beginning. Stay safe, enjoy the eclipse, protect your eyes, and Mazel Tov. We're signing off, and we'll see you. I'll tell you all about it next week. Hopefully back to Friday night at 8 p.m. This is the pre-weekend kick, or the pre-eclipse kickoff on Forever Living Radio.